Colleagues of the Congressional Black Caucus for their leadership and their presence this afternoon. The CBC is gathered today to express our very grave concerns about the Republican scheme to cut billions of dollars from SNAP benefits that help millions of American families from going hungry. As you may know, the Republican budget framework directs the elimination of $230 billion in agricultural spending. The math is clear. $230 billion in cuts are impossible without eliminating SNAP benefits and putting over 42 million Americans at risk of food insecurity. These cuts to SNAP will have far-reaching consequences, particularly on low-income families and communities of color. In recent years, 20% of black households have faced food insecurity compared to 7% of their white household counterparts. 42% of all SNAP recipients are children. In fact, 4 in 5 SNAP households include either a child, an elder, or an individual with a disability. These cuts to SNAP will only worsen food insecurity and hardship in black and brown communities, reduce revenue for local businesses, and disrupt our food supply chain. Instead of working to lower the cost of living on day one, as President Trump promised, it is outrageous that Republicans have spent all their time working to dismantle the social safety net, including SNAP. Not only have Republicans done nothing to lower the cost of living, as promised, they refuse to even acknowledge the reality. The reality that their policies are driving up the cost of living, that cuts to SNAP will leave millions of American families and children hungry. And the Republicans have shown us time and again that they have no issue ignoring the urgent needs of the American people. And they have shown time and again that they are more than willing to take food off the table of American families to hand-deliver tax breaks to the wealthy. Well, SNAP is not a handout, as many on the right want us to believe. SNAP is a lifeline. It provides critical assistance to families and individuals who are simply struggling to make ends meet under very hard economic times. Republicans are playing a dangerous game at the expense of the American people. And their playbook to take America backward is one that has become all too familiar. Step 1, bend the knee to President Trump and Elon Musk, who are hell-bent on decimating the social safety net programs like SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Step 2, lie and say they're doing the opposite with the hope that they can get over on the American people. These cuts to SNAP are the difference between life and death for the many in the communities that we serve. We are not going to sit back and watch while Republicans throw a rock and hold their hand and hide their hand, CBC and House Democrats are going to continue calling out the Republicans while making clear the impact of their destruction. We are going to continue doing all we can to fight back to save SNAP now and in the future Farm Bill negotiations. We will not sit on the sidelines while Republicans work to take food away from low-income households, children, families, older Americans, people with disabilities, and our veterans. We will not stand for it. And so it's my honor now to bring up the ranking member on the subcommittee that oversees this matter on the Appropriations Committee, Congressman Sanford Bishop.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We are here in support of all people who are receiving the nutrition benefits from SNAP and those who will need to receive it. No American should go hungry. Healthy food should be affordable and accessible to every single American. SNAP is one of our country's best programs to make sure that no one is left behind when it comes to food. It helps hard or working moms help make ends meet. It helps your elderly neighbor have a wholesome meal. It helps that child in your neighborhood to go to school without having to grapple with hunger pains. It helps countless disabled people who have a need for healthy food. SNAP's effects go beyond just the people it feeds, but to the farmers and the businesses that provide the food. In fact, if the Republicans' cut to SNAP goes into effect, it puts at risk over 285,000 jobs. Real people are going to be hurt by the $230 billion in SNAP cuts that the Republicans are trying to force on the American people. Here are some numbers just for Georgia. SNAP cuts will cost the Georgia economy over $600 million. It will affect more than 1.5 million people in Georgia alone and 42 million Americans across the country. Nearly 42% of the folks that receive SNAP are children. These cuts overwhelmingly hurt low-income Americans, and there are low-income Americans of every race, every creed, every ethnicity in this country and in every state. These cuts will hurt families from urban America, from rural America, the disabled, our military veterans. It hurts our grandparents and our children. And yes, these cuts will disproportionately hurt black Americans. The purpose of SNAP is to help people out of poverty. It gives people a fighting chance to change the course of their lives. We need to be honest with American people because the Republican leaders are not being honest. Cutting SNAP is not about preventing fraud, waste, or abuse. It is a penny-wise ploy for them to prey on the public cynicism in order to bankroll billionaire tax cuts. These cuts are penny-wise and pound-foolish. My faith and my Bible tell me that we have an obligation to feed the hungry. This afternoon, I'm joining my colleagues in the Capitol in just a few minutes, where we're going to hear from Americans from all walks of life who are being helped by SNAP and who are being threatened by this Republican hustle. SNAP affects all of us, and we are all here, the CBC, and members of Congress who have a conscience. We are here to fight for all those who need for Americans to have healthy, nutritious foods. You're back.
We thank Sanford Bishop and ask that another champion for the needs of our communities, someone who understands intimately what this means in terms of communities across this nation, a real advocate, Congresswoman Johanna Hayes of Connecticut.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Chairwoman, for calling this very important press conference today. The Budget Reconciliation Instructions to the House Agriculture Committee require $230 billion in cuts. You've heard that number over and over again. But it is impossible to achieve this target without going after SNAP. I don't care what they say, it just can't be done. SNAP is the most efficient and effective anti-poverty program in our nation and a critical part of the Farm Bill. The math ain't mathin'. There's nowhere else to find $230 billion in cuts without touching SNAP. These cuts would be felt by nearly 17 million children, over 7 million seniors, and 1.2 million veterans who depend on SNAP. At a time when people across the country are struggling with the high cost of groceries, SNAP helps more than 42 million Americans each month keep food on the table by providing a modest but meaningful $6 per person per day. In the 2018 Farm Bill, Congress worked really hard to get language in that called for the revaluation of the Thrifty Food Plan by 2022 and every 5 years thereafter. The Congressional Black Caucus led the efforts on this. First, with Chairwoman Marcia Fudge, who was intentional and steadfast on this issue, and then by myself as the chairwoman of the Subcommittee on Nutrition, working with the chair, David Scott, on the full Committee of Agriculture to make sure that this reevaluation was done. Based on that reevaluation, people received an average of $36.24 more per month, which doesn't seem like much, but it was the first time SNAP benefits have been increased since 2006, and CBC were the champions on that effort. We all know that black households are disproportionately affected by food insecurity. SNAP participation helps reduce those disparities in food insecurity, and they have helped to lift families and individuals above the poverty line. Most of the people we're talking about who receive benefits already have a work history, already are doing their part, and still don't make enough to feed their children. About 1 in 4 black American households were food insecure in 2018, compared to 1 in 8 of all U.S. households. This is a problem. This is our problem, and we are determined to be a part of the solution. SNAP is an investment in our economy. For every $1 spent in SNAP benefits, $1.50 is generated back to local economies. This is grocers, truckers, ag growers, marketplaces. It is a lifeline for so many people. Last week, I sent a letter to Speaker Johnson, along with all of the House Democrats on the Agriculture Committee, asking him to reconsider these harmful cuts. But make no mistake about it, this is a hard line for me. The Republicans have proven themselves to not be trustworthy negotiating partners. They gave us the top lines in the budget. They gave us the top lines in the debt ceiling. They gave us the top lines in the CR. And now they won't even adhere to those numbers. And every time they get a chance, the one program they come after is SNAP. Just like they have hard lines, so do we. So do I. I will never vote for a farm bill, a reconciliation package, a continuing resolution, a budget that leaves children in this country hungry, full stop. In the wealthiest country in the world, in 2025, children should not be worried about where their next meal will come from. And I can tell you that on my watch, they won't have to. Thank you.
Yes, that's right. All right. So will you give her a clap, please? These CBC members don't play. We will now hear from another champion for our communities, for children, for our seniors, from the great state of Ohio, Congresswoman Shontel Brown.
Thank you. Oh, goodness. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Congresswoman Shontel Brown, Vice Ranking Member on the House Agriculture Committee representing Cleveland and Northeast Ohio. I want to start by reminding folks that in my district, 1 in 5 households rely on SNAP benefits, including 1 in 3 black households. The $230 billion in proposed cuts is a direct attack on our communities, our neighbors, and our families. Serving on the Ag Committee, we've been on the front lines defending SNAP for over 2 years now, and it is why we still don't have a farm bill. There is a radical Republican effort to cut SNAP. They want fewer people on the program, and they want smaller benefits. People need to know exactly what this means. Last week, I took part in the SNAP Challenge. The average SNAP benefit is $6 a day. $6 a day, $2 a meal. So I went to the grocery store to buy a week's worth of groceries on a $42 budget. It was eye-opening. It was humbling. On a SNAP budget of $42, you've got to make really, really tough choices. Choices like chicken or beef, milk or eggs, oranges or apples. That's what people are dealing with every day. And instead of helping people make ends meet, Trump is helping them to meet their ends of their budgets, more month than money, making it harder for people to live their lives. I'll make one final point. The grocery store where I shop, most of the customers are Black, and I said a huge number of them rely on SNAP. If there are massive SNAP cuts, that's going to hammer businesses and employers in Northeast Ohio. This is just deeply wrong. It is immoral and illogical. Red, purple, blue, America, nobody voted for this. This Republican budget is a disaster for the country and for Black Americans, and we are going to fight this every step of the way. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
We thank Congresswoman Chantel Brown for really distilling that down for us. We know what it means to the average everyday American. And we will now hear from another champion in this space, Congresswoman Alma Adams of North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here. I'm Alma Adams. I represent the 12th Congressional District of Charlotte, North Carolina. And let me just say to my Republican colleagues, shame on you. You know, attacks on SNAP show us that Republicans in Congress want Americans to go hungry. Families are struggling to put food on their table right now, including 1.5 million people in my home state of North Carolina. The cost of groceries has never been higher. A dozen eggs in my district costs 175% more today than it did in December. And nearly half of all the households in America are living paycheck to paycheck, unable to make the ends meet. And I continue to say that working hard is not enough if you don't make enough. And meanwhile, my Republican colleagues are looking to slash the largest national food security program in order to give their billionaire friends tax cuts. Republicans say that SNAP is wasteful, filled with fraud, but we know that's just not true. It provides life-saving food security to millions of families throughout the United States, especially our most vulnerable citizens. 42% of all SNAP recipients are children. Cuts to SNAP will quite literally take food out of the mouth of our kids. In fact, 80% of households receiving SNAP have either a child, an elderly person, or someone with a disability who relies on benefits in order to eat. These are the people they want to starve, so Elon Musk and his Muskins can get richer. Cutting SNAP will especially harm communities of color, who will significantly have more food insecurity on average. Hispanic households experience food insecurity at more than twice the rate of white households. For African Americans, it's nearly 3 times that of white households. SNAP is essential to making food security more achievable for communities of color. But I'm sure the Trump administration would just call that DEI. You know, cutting SNAP will also devastate local economies across the country. In Mecklenburg County, in my district, 160,000 of our residents receive aid from SNAP, and the program carries with it $500 million in economic impacts. And that's money that they want to take from small businesses, from local grocers, from farmers. And if Republicans cut SNAP, don't expect just to feel it at the dinner table. It will increase unemployment. It will shut down businesses. It will cause more families not to be able to make the ends meet when everyone is already hurting from a weak economy. You can't be hungry if you're healthy. You can't be healthy if you're hungry. The 2/3 of both of them go hand in hand. And so at this time of economic hardship, it is more important than ever to protect SNAP so that we can protect our most vulnerable citizens. We need to keep our children fed. We need to keep our elderly fed, to keep our community members with disabilities fed. Our priority as a nation must be the families, that are struggling to put food on their tables right now, not tax cuts for billionaires. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our colleagues. These are experts. What you're hearing today is not hyperbole. This is fact. These are individuals who have been negotiating with folks who don't want to negotiate. And so we look forward to this fight. We look forward to this battle, and we look forward to winning in the American communities across this nation. We recognize that it is important that we bring facts to our people during a time of propaganda and misinformation. So today we are alerting the American people of what is inevitably a ploy to cut SNAP, to make sure that, unfortunately, families across this nation are burdened with additional hardship. And we are asking that the American people pay attention, that you reach out to our offices and let your preferences be known. So with that, if there aren't any more presenters today, we will open if there are any questions. Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm going to have Ms. Hayes speak to this.
Well, the research just doesn't support that it works. You know, the amount of reporting requirements that are around those literally outweigh the benefits. So if someone is required to, I mean, the frequency with which those things have to be updated. But again, this is a conversation that we've debated in committee, that they introduced as part of their farm bill, that they keep talking in circles around. Every time you turn around, the goalpost is just moved further. So it's work requirements. When I brought up veteran hunger, they said that's not something that we should worry about. That should be on the Veteran Services Committee. Every time there's a proposal to feed people, they come up with something different. So if they want to discuss work requirements, I'm here for it. Let's have a committee. Let's have a hearing about it. Let's look at the data. Let's look at how that would be rolled out. But that's not really what they want. They want to end this program. They want to take this money and provide subsidies and tax cuts to different communities. And again, it's just something that my entire time in Congress, this has been an issue that has resurfaced. If they were serious about debating, discussing, implementing work requirements, they've been in the majority for 2 Congresses now. We had a farm bill that was up for negotiation. We had bipartisan discussions on this farm bill. We had a vote in committee on this farm bill, and never once did they include that as part of the package. So every time we get to the goalpost, they move it back and add something in. So again, that's just a distraction from their real efforts to just dismantle SNAP.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Secretary Rollins is revamping the push to put different health restrictions on what you can buy with SNAP benefits. So I just wanted to get your response to that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You might as well stay right there.
Again, this is something that has been debated over and over. And I think the part that this speaks to is not so much about the program or the benefits amount, it's the dignity of, according to Secretary Rollins, a mother can't buy a birthday cake for her child using SNAP benefits. The idea that a person cannot choose the foods that are available to them. Right now, a person who receives SNAP can't even purchase hot foods. So if you are living in a shelter, if you are unhoused, if you don't have adequate cooking facilities, then your benefits are no good to you. If you don't have a grocery store that is in your community that has all of these options and choices, then again, your benefits are no good to you. Secretary Rollins is not looking for real solutions to this problem. It is yet another attempt to further demonize people and devalue their humanity because they rely on SNAP benefits. This idea of we will choose, and I saw this coming when we were debating the farm to families food boxes. They were almost salivating at the mouths at the idea of, we will choose the foods for you. We have so many people with health restrictions, with nutrition issues, with not adequate access to fruits and vegetables in their communities. What is her plan for filling in those gaps? Are we going to put a farmer's market on every corner in every community in urban areas? Because I would love to see that, and I welcome it. So yet again, just like work requirements, restrictions on what people can buy, all of these things are an effort to chip away and dehumanize people who are just hungry, SNAP has it has less fraud and abuse than any of our other federal programs because there are already checkpoints in place. Nobody is getting rich off of $6 per person per day. Nobody. And the one hearing that we had when they took the majority on abuse in the program, the witness that they brought in, they celebrated that this person was able to get away with defrauding the system, as opposed to figuring out what they did and closing those loopholes so that no one else could ever do that again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You remember that?
Okay, well, let me thank you once again, members of the press, for being here. We want to make sure that this information gets out to the American people, and you all have been tremendous in making sure that that is so. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.